guy with the drum. Right.
Hello, welcome back. I'm Phil. This is not Chris or Rob because new format to the show, guest presenter every week. Chris and Rob have regenerated and merged into one person and regenerated into my wife. This is Emily.
Oh no, so I had to date that.
And I am Phil, as always. And today we are reviewing The Romans on Doctor Who Rebrief. I wanted to get you in on this one because we both studied classical civilizations at A-level.
Yes.
Which admittedly was a little while ago now.
Only a couple.
Yeah. But, so I thought it would be a good one because it's a historical. It's a straight historical. There's no aliens. It's all just like them interacting with the Roman world. Mm-hmm. So I thought that would be a good one that you might be more interested in than some other ones. It's fair to say you've never watched a whole classic Who serial before, have you?
No.
From start to finish. You've caught the occasional bits of episodes?
Yeah, probably.
Have you ever seen a whole episode before?
Yeah, I think I have.
Yeah. But you're more of a new Who person.
Yeah.
Okay, so what did you think, having your first ever experience of watching a whole serial? It was only a 4-parter, so went easy on you. You didn't have to do a 6-parter, or even worse, there's 12-parters out there. How did you find it?
It was fine.
It was fine.
It was fine.
It was fine.
It was okay.
Right, glowing endorsement.
Yeah.
But I suppose it's probably better than, oh my god, that was terrible and boring and...
Yeah.
Oh,
and at least it didn't have the really annoying, whiny one in it. What was her name?
Susan.
Yes, her. Yes. She's not in this one.
You were quite pleased when I said that Susan wasn't in this, weren't you?
Yes.
Susan was quite annoying.
Very annoying.
Cool. I thought it was a good one. I thought it was a good amount of... there was some funny moments in it. They were clearly going for a slightly humorous black comedy vibe.
Yeah.
Quite liked that. It worked quite well sometimes.
Yeah, that was quite
good. On the classics front, do you think they got... Because these early serials, part of the remit of the show was to be educational. So these straight historicals were actually meant to be educational and to teach something about the historical setting they were in. Do you think they did that well?
Yeah, I think it was on the, superficial stuff. It was probably pretty... it's just, would children at the time then be going around saying, wow, the Doctor convinced Nero to set fire to Rome? I mean...
Yeah, it's all the Doctor's fault.
It's all the Doctor's fault.
I suppose it's the way of life and things.
Yeah.
Do you think that was accurately portrayed?
The slavery and the...
Slave trade.
The rowing and the boat.
To give a summary of the plot, because I've just realised I've forgotten to do that. The Tardis crew land in Italy, somewhere, presumably, in the Roman Empire era. Emperor Nero is on the throne. Does he have a throne?
He's in charge.
He's in charge. He's the emperor. The TARDIS immediately falls off a cliff. And there's this really weird thing where it falls off a cliff and then it just cuts, and then the next scene they're lounging around eating grapes in a Roman villa.
Yeah.
With no sort of
Very odd.
getting out of the TARDIS scene
No.
or anything like that. No explanation, and they've just been there a month. But it feels like there's a scene missing there.
Yeah.
Where they decide, clamber out of the TARDIS and decide to stick around and have a holiday.
Yeah.
And anyway, it quickly develops into, they come across, they split up, basically, because Ian and Barbara get captured by slave traders. The Doctor and Vicky...
the Doctor decides to go to Rome with Vicky, and then in his absence, the other two get captured.
Yeah, and the Doctor has a case of mistaken identity where some Romans... think he's a lute player? Liar player. And that puts him in the crosshairs of the Emperor, who wants him dead, because he can't have a better liar player than the Emperor.
No.
And there's some gladiatory... Ian ends up in the gladiator pits, and it's all... And they keep on missing each other. They're, in the same palace, and they keep on, almost They never realise they're in the same
It's
palace.
like one will go out of shot as the other one walks in.
So what were your highlights of the 4-parters?
I quite like when they were in the ship and Ian is a slave and is rowing the ship. I quite like that bit. That was probably my favourite.
Was it seeing all the rugged men working?
No, I think it was quite nicely done, and the big guy with the drum, row, and then they got shipwrecked.
I think that was probably one of the better sets as well.
Probably.
That looked the most realistic, because the sets
probably. It did look good. It did actually.
weren't great.
No.
I liked several things. I liked the humour in parts. I thought there were some funny lines.
I think funny is quite relative.
Yeah, it is relative. Okay, we weren't laughing out loud, but there were some slightly amusing lines, and the black humour, like where the Emperor gets his servant to taste the wine that he's been told is poisoned.
Oh yeah.
There's this look on his face, and there's there's a few one-liners in there that are quite amusing. I thought the scene I really liked was the Doctor fighting in his bedroom when he gets attacked. He was dancing all over the place. It was great. That was funny, but also it was kind of hint of the kind of like prancing around and dancing that you get from like maybe David Tennant later on or Matt Smith.
Yeah.
That kind of like energetic, kind of like swooping stuff over someone's head, pushing them away, kind of fighting. So the Doctor being all energetic for once, which is usually in these early ones. That's usually Ian's role. Anything you didn't like? Narrow it down. If there was a lot you didn't like, narrow it down. You said it was okay.
It was okay. I think probably some of the props and things, it jarred a lot.
At one point, Nero crashes into a pillar and it just falls over. I was like, that would be a big, heavy marble pillar.
Yeah.
Of course, it's actually made of like cardboard or something.
Yeah.
It just falls over, doesn't make much of a noise.
And there's this guy that's like sharpening the bluntest sword in the world to go and kill somebody.
And the swords look really flat as well. They look like children's play swords.
Yeah.
That where they just make them out of cardboard.
Oh, and the bit where just before Ian has to go into the gladiator pit, and there's these people like fighting, and they're like this. It's brilliant. It's brilliant and bad at the same time. It's
so bad it's good.
Yeah, so bad it's good. Well, it was just, slow.
That is not a slow serial for these William Hartnell stories. That was quite a fast-paced serial for these. Or were you talking about the fights specifically?
No, just the whole thing.
The whole thing.
Yeah.
No, that was actually quite a speedy one.
Okay.
Comparatively, you should have sat through some of the ones that me, Chris, and Rob did last year.
No, it's fine.
Oh. Some of them went on. Yeah, the weird start I didn't like.
Yeah, that was a bit weird.
It was just there was like a whole scene missing, and the sets were, other than the rowing galley, which looked pretty authentic. It was very cardboardy.
Yeah, the gladiator pit was quite poor, wasn't it? It was basically like a sand pit.
Oh yeah, the gladiator pit. They're in Rome.
Yeah.
If the emperor's going to watch gladiators, it's going to be in the Colosseum, surely.
Yeah.
Not in some little room where the emperor's on
a
a stage that's as high as this sofa is from the ground.
Well, gladiators could jump and stab him to death.
Yeah, a gladiator attacked him,
Yeah.
and they only having 2 guards, no other crowds, nowhere for anybody else to sit. It didn't.
Yeah.
I mean, I suppose he might have had somewhere for a private audience fight, but
yeah, it was a bit odd.
Yeah. Another feature we do on this show is the Hoology. This is where we pay our respects to somebody or something or sometimes a concept that has died a death in these episodes. Do you have one?
Yeah, the original assassin that basically Nero sent this guy, Nero instructed his head of the guard or whatever to kill the lyre player. So he sent this guy with no tongue, basically, to kill him. And he did. And then the Doctor took over his identity, and then the Doctor met the King of the Guard, and basically the King of the Guard blamed the guy with no tongue for not doing his job. But he had done his job.
Oh, yeah, poor guy.
Yeah, poor guy. But he couldn't say because he didn't have a tongue.
Oh,
So-
yeah, of course.
Yeah.
That didn't even click in my head.
So then he had to then go and kill the Doctor, which is the fight that
The
you
fight I
were talking
mentioned,
about. And eventually, what's the companion called?
Vicky.
She comes into the room and basically pushes this guy out the window. So I felt a bit sorry for him, really, because
Yeah,
he had done his job.
yeah. I feel this Doctor, William Hartnell's Doctor, is a bit more blasé about people dying than future Doctors.
Yeah.
And even the fact that later on he effectively inspires Nero to burn down the whole of Rome.
Brilliant! You are a genius, a genius!
Now, there, David Tennant, Matt Smith, Peter Capaldi, they'd be going on about, well, it's a fixed point in time, it had to happen, blah, blah, blah. But they'd be sorrowful about it. But the first Doctor was giggling about the fact that he was
He's
giggling
like,
at the end. Oh, I inspired the
Whoopsie!
the burning of Rome and the death of all these people. Whoops.
Oh dear.
My fault. Ha ha!
And he didn't seem to be fussed at all. Whereas
No.
even if I feel that even if the modern Doctors that had happened and they felt there was nothing they could do about it because it's a fixed point in time or whatever, they would have been like
Ooh.
heavy-hearted about
Yes,
it.
I think so, yeah.
A bit more respectful for
Yeah.
the dead. My eulogy is Nero's personal servant who got handed the wine to taste. The Doctor had told Nero that his wine was poisoned because Vicky had been there when it got poisoned, and she'd switched because it was originally meant to poison Barbara, and she'd switched the cups around.
But
So
she
that
didn't
Barbara-
know it was Barbara.
No, she just thought it was a slave girl.
Yeah.
And Nero is about to be. So the Doctor stops him drinking it, but then he's not sure if it's actually poisoned or if So he hands it to his servant and gets him to taste it, and he just drops down dead straight away. So
And then Nero goes, oh, he was right.
guess he was poisoned. Yeah. So poor guy. That's reminded me of another highlight I had, which I've forgotten, which is basically the whole of the third episode is because they'd split off and had two separate stories, but they both end up in the palace. They just keep the whole of the third episode is just them constantly missing each other. Like Barbara is being chased around the palace by a horny Nero trying to get in her pants, and suddenly she'll dash into a room while Nero's still running down the corridor, and then the Doctor will come out and have a conversation with Nero, but he won't have seen Barbara because she dashed into the room before he came out into the corridor, and all sorts of things. It's like a French farce.
Yeah, it just annoyed me.
Right, were there any Doctor Who debuts? This is where we look to see if there's anything that's in the mythology of Doctor Who that, concepts that keep on cropping up that this is the first time they did. I don't know, was it?
No.
You don't know. You haven't got a clue.
No.
You'd spot something like, if they used the sonic screwdriver, you might go, was that the first time they used the sonic screwdriver? They didn't, but...
No. I didn't see anything.
But you didn't see anything.
No.
I think it's the first time that they've, the TARDIS crew go, let's have a holiday. I'm scraping the barrel a bit here.
Yeah.
But I think it's the first time we've seen... that happens every once in a while. So I think this is the first time that's happened. So, there you go. That's my only Doctor Who debut. Thank you for watching, anyway. I will be back with another guest presenter for the next serial, which is The Web Planet. Hopefully that will be my sister, but I can't guarantee it.
And so does that have spiders involved?
Does, I think, have giant animals.
I'm very glad I don't have to watch that one then.
Yeah, glad we did it this way around.
Yeah.
So please do all the liking, subscribing, sharing if you want to see more of these videos and all that jazz. And yeah, see you next time. Bye.